Three. Hi, welcome to our podcast. I'm here with Lindsey Winder. He is CEO and founder of Hedgy Finance. Hi, Lindsey.
Hey Zoe, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. So I had the pleasure of connecting with Lindsey when he was presenting at a Filecoin developers meeting, and I was really excited for what he's doing with startups, helping them essentially plan everything that's important to protocol development. Um, so Lindsay, do you want to tell us a little bit about hedgy and investing, lockups,
Oh
and
yeah,
token management?
talk all about it. I'll give a background on us a bit as well, I guess, because we started out 3 years ago, and we very much so were not building on-chain token management for teams. Um, when we started 3 years ago, we came out of the Tachyon Accelerator, which was funded by Protocol Labs, and that was kind of our origin. We were really interested at that time at working with on-chain foundations and DAOs around asset management or managing their treasuries basically and giving them tools that could support them. Our first product was a covered calls options protocol. Basically, at the time, DAOs were paper rich and cash poor. They had a lot of native tokens in their treasury, but they had no real like diversified assets like stable coins, which are pretty important to run operations over a period of time. And the only options really were like selling tokens. That was it, and it wasn't really effective for a lot of these organizations. So we wanted to create something else for them. So we basically created an options protocol that let DAOs sell covered calls on their token, essentially selling the right to their token at a higher price in the future. It allowed them to generate some USDC on the premium of selling that option. And then, of course, if someone purchased that or exercised that option in the future, it would diversify their treasury, but almost think of it like diversifying when your price is going up rather than just selling it in a down market. Um, we built that, and it was a really useful tool. I mean, I love it conceptually, but it was very hard to build it out at scale. This was 2021, and it was in the middle of a bull market, and people just thought things would go up forever. And so people were very fine not diversifying and just riding the wave. But in working with teams during that time, we realized a lot of the teams we worked with had a lot of just like core problems that were deeper and started earlier than their present state. One of them was when we were just doing basic like who has your tokens and where are they at. It was all like on spreadsheets at the time. It may have been like across like 50 safes. Some investors had it here, employees had it here. They were manually distributing tokens. And we found this just kind of like mess where teams didn't really know how their tokens were distributed and to who. My co-founder, he's a CFA. He was at JP Morgan. He started WeWork's global treasury team in 2016. This stuff was really interesting to him, like just running a treasury. So we decided we were going to build like a set of free on-chain tools that companies could use to distribute tokens to their employees, to their investors, and eventually their community. And the reason we did that was that we thought, the power of blockchain was that it could take things that in traditional finance or traditional markets, it's very expensive. Like if you use a Carta, it might be, 30 grand a year to manage your cap table, who has tokens. But blockchain, you can automate that. You can make it on chain. You can make it automated. You can make it readable. You can create a system of record that RUI or anyone else's could basically like make sense of all of this. And so we set out to build that. Over the last 2 years, we've probably had 800 plus tokens launched on the platform. We've worked with Arbitrum, ENS, Wormhole, Cello, just like countless teams, both teams that are just small and starting very early, and teams that are at their peak and absolutely crushing it. And we built a product that doesn't always service every part of that puzzle, but can always service something, whether it's, with Arbitrum, they use us to distribute around 150 million of grants to their protocols. A lot of big teams use us just to automate programmatic lockups for their investors. Some teams use us for their employee vesting. We built that out, and I think we kind of have our products in a steady state. But part of what we've discovered, and this is as markets evolve and there starts to become clarity on things, there's always like a technical problem you're solving, and then that of course isn't outside like the legal components of it. And so like legal and tax are two things that are very interesting in our market right now, because our tools can help with a lot of the like technical receivership components of tokens. But there's still a lot of other stuff you have to really consider, like if you're launching a token, as far as before you like execute the receivership component, are you thinking of like how you're structuring your employee token grants for tax optimization? Are you filing the right forms and working with the right people, like your lawyer, token valuation specialists, et cetera, at the right time in the right order to like set yourself up for success? So I think we're really happy with our products where they are from a technical perspective. I think our space in general, there's still a lot of work we need to do as an industry to make it easy from the legal and tax components of all of this as well. And I think there's a lot of teams, us included, that are really focused on that. So I think it's an interesting time for it. So that's where we are, and that's how we got to where we are.
Good. Yeah, I mean it's yeah. The origin is just super fascinating because, I joined the space later, and so that's particularly fascinating. And you're right, like just having something to service everyone in such a broad, diverse, lovely space is just so meaningful and so useful to us as startups and founders doing this, navigating this complexity, and it's great. It's great. I mean, it's kind of exciting figuring it out, but having technologies that can help are just obviously streamline everything. And that's what we aim to do too, solving a pain point.
That's right.
Uh, and we actually have exciting compliance automation integrations now in Salesforce with our product.
Cool.
So that's exciting too. We
That's
really
awesome.
want to do, because I mean, there are it's way too easy to accidentally get yourself into a legal kerfuffle. So as much as you can do without, to minimize that is just super important. It's not,
Well,
there are a lot of unknowns.
also like, as a founder, and I don't know, spoken to how many hundreds of teams, like your job is to build this very big, impossible idea and turn it into a product and something that changes the world. And that's why we're all here. It isn't to like become an expert on writing like contracts for vesting, or even if it's just the concepts of it. Like it's not. There's so many things in our space where people go on these tangents and side quests. Like becoming an expert at like tax implications for U.S. employees on like a restricted token award. It's not your job as a founder to like become an expert at that. But in our space, because we are dealing with such like an emerging technology, and there's so many unknowns and things are becoming more clear over time, but we see so many times where founders just get lost in this process of creating like a decentralized ecosystem for their company, kind of evolving it from the nucleus of a company to a DAO, for example. And as much as we or anyone building for these users in the space can do, as much as we can like minimize the amount of side quests builders have to go on, it just gives back more time and resources to like your core mission. And I think that's why we're building what we're building, is to just let people focus on the thing that they are an expert in and let them, offset everything else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, just so appreciate it as a founder. It's just yeah, wow. So, in your origins with Protocol Labs and Filecoin, you give back a lot to the Filecoin community, helping users onboard and everything through mentorship presentations, again, how we met. So, do you want to talk a little bit more about that, why it's meaningful, and any advice where that came from?
Yeah, I mean, Filecoin, Protocol Labs, the ecosystem of that world has been so supportive of us since we started. They were basically our first check. Um, and I've been able to follow the evolution of the Filecoin ecosystem over the last, like 3 or 4 years now, and just see how much it's grown and evolved. And I think with FVM, you're starting to now be able to see people launch their visions on Filecoin in this incredible way, this very scalable way, and it's exciting to see. And I think at a core, it's what we believe that teams should be able to focus on their vision and their business and what they're great at, and they should allow or they should be able to not get sidetracked by all the stuff we do. And so for us, being able to deploy our tools there, make them free to use, self-service, but also, you know, candidly, white gloved because we get on calls with everyone and spend hours like making sure things are done right. But just allowing people to deploy their token natively on, FVM and grow their ecosystems there and create their systems of record and ownership and management on FVM is something like I feel we're really lucky to do because the ecosystem has been so generous to us over the last several years. So now we get to help teams launching on FVM grow, and that's great.
It's amazing. Really, really great. Cool. So if you could summarize like one piece of advice that's the first thing you would say to someone, a founder starting out, what would you what's the first thing that would come to mind? I know it's kind of big, so
Like a founder starting out, like literally like an idea of a company and you want to get started, like that stage.
that yeah, I mean like one practical thing, to look out for example.
It's um it's a complicated question. I mean, there's so many mistakes you like have made and advice doesn't really help you avoid them. You almost just have to like go through them and have the scar tissue of making mistakes many times. People always say surround yourself by people who've done it before. Like mentors are very important. Surrounding yourself with other founders, surrounding yourself with like really good mentors, like we went through Tachyon. That was very important for us to see not just other founders like at our early stage making mistakes, but people who've seen like people make mistakes thousands of times and helping you just identify them very quickly and think about them internally. Um, that's important, because you have an idea, when you're starting a company, you have an idea. You try to like get some nucleus of it going. You try to raise some capital if it's like a venture-backed company, and then you have a period of time to like bring that to the next stage or it dies. And so like the things to keep in mind are, you know, you have a period of time and you have to know where you have to be at the end of that period of time to keep going. And then you have to back into that. And the things you have to have, I think, as a company, like, or at least personal values we have are you have to be able to, in the idea maze step of like running a company, be able to rapidly create, test, and kill ideas. So we've done dozens of things and we have no problem testing an idea out, seeing if it has any like path of product market fit and killing it if it doesn't. And you have to have a team with you, a group of people building with you that are very comfortable doing that. A lot of people are not. It's very hard to get a group of people to build on something for a month or two, push it into the market, and then say, we put a lot of energy, we squeezed every ounce of juice out of ourselves for this, but it's not going to work. let's do the next thing. So you have to have a team capable of doing that with you. And then again, it's all down to time. Like how many times can you just go through that loop with a good group of people? And with time, it's about, being frugal with like your runway. There's things you do, mistakes you make when you raise a big round and you sponsor things and you spend money on things. And when you're on the other side of that, you realize, the only thing you need is time, and the more frugal you can be with your runway is important. So if I was speaking to early founders who are like maybe just raising a round, I would say, surround yourself with great people, have a team that can move fast, build things, kill things, push things that maybe are going in the right direction. Talk with your customers daily, literally daily. You need to be talking with people you work with or serve daily, and then give yourself enough time to actually find that thing that brings you to the next level.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, and it's good, like, yeah, it's a hard question to answer because there's so many moving pieces. So I think you did like an amazing job. It was just yeah, that's one thing that you can't do without. Um, it's really great.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's all advice. The other thing is people will give you advice, and most of the time it's bullshit. So so you always have to like, you always have to be true to like what you believe as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because ultimately, like nobody knows everything and people want to get on your cat table.
Yeah. Yeah,
Or
that just everyone has ideas of, how they build the world, you know.
that too. And the diversity, in other areas of tech can be super interesting and just make everything worth it, even when the going gets rough. But I feel like in a lot of ways, I found that to be uniquely the case in this space, in the Web3 space. Um, just because of who comes in trying to change the certain economic factors, like just the fact that you're able to build on economic models is I think it just brings a whole set of unique people.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you look at like how our space has kind of evolved, and I came in, I guess, in 2017, and there's a whole like generation or class of people before me who saw what led to that. And I think you've seen the types of builders in our space evolve in some ways in a very positive way, in some ways maybe not as much. Um, you've seen interest in like venture funding to drive the types of things that get funded and the types of innovation that actually get enough runway to evolve. I don't know, it's an interesting time, I think, like back in 20, I guess, 2019, 2020, where there wasn't as much funding for products, people built this very like weird, eclectic, like hobby projects, right? You had a lot of amazing projects that were funded by like Meta Cartel back in the day. And they may not have made sense. And honestly, it didn't make sense from a VC perspective because they couldn't raise at the time. But they were driven by like the passions of the founders, right? Even if they didn't make sense. And honestly, like, blockchain makes some things that in web 2 they're good businesses. It makes them not good businesses because they're just like efficient in ways you can't capitalize on. I think over the last few years you've seen more projects get funded when they fit into a narrative, and that's why you see a lot of like buckets of projects that get funded, like consumer DeFi was before, but depend, AI, L1s, L2s. And that's why you see just a lot of projects get funded because, or a lot of projects in our space that are in those sectors because those are the ones that are getting funded from venture capital. And like, I wonder where the place is now for those like radical ideas that don't fit into a narrative. They're a bit of an outlier from any kind of like thesis most the consensus people have. I feel like we need that in our space because it's where like some of the most magical ideas will happen. But I don't see as many of those projects as I used to. And maybe I'm just looking in the wrong areas. I don't know.
Um, yeah, I mean, they do seem to be rare. It's, yeah, so great. You do see those magical ideas.
For sure. Um, yeah, I mean, I know we're going to be out of time soon. This is like a speed interview today. But gosh, I don't know. I don't know. What should I do? Should I give advice? I hate giving advice, but what would you
Uh,
like to do with those?
if you want, or you could just close out, how can people reach you to learn about Hedgy and to get on board?
Yeah, I mean, we have, Hedgy, HEDGEY.finance. My Telegram is the same as my Twitter. It's Go for Lindsey. Um, and I mean, I hope you can see from this interview, like we love speaking with founders. We love speaking with people who are trying to build ideas. We love supporting them. So whether it's just people needing like, input from people who work with pre-token companies preparing to launch and need someone who can send them to the right people, or something we can help with ourselves, we're always happy to do that. So yeah, just send them our way.
Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely reach out to Lindsay. I highly recommend it.
Thank you.